Today's Cosplay Talk episode is sponsored by Moco Queen Color Contacts. Don't forget to use my code Wayne for 10% off at checkout at mocoqueen.com. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. How's it, everyone? Wayne the Unknown here, and welcome back to another episode of Cosplay Talk, where we basically discuss everything pertaining to the cosplay community and conventions. I'm here with Mo, also known as DomiNYcan Knight. How are we doing tonight, Mo?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight?
I know I am doing really well. Again, I want to thank you for coming on. Of course, I also got to thank Cosplay Flower for mentioning you to be a guest on this channel.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, it's a great honor to be, to not only be mentioned by Cosplay Flower, but to be interviewed is always a thrill. So thank you for that. Thank you for
Oh,
the opportunity.
oh, you are very welcome. So to begin, real quick, what made you want to come up with the name DomiNYcan Knight as your cosplay handle?
Oh, well, DomiNYcan Knight actually has been probably a handle I've used now for several years, even before cosplay. I'm deep down, I'm an artist, so I do like, when I created, back when DeviantArt was a little bit more of an established, more sort of in the zeitgeist kind of name. I would put my sketches and stuff, and actually that was my handle, my moniker was DomiNYcan Knight. Um, and it's just one that's actually been with me for the longest time. It's incorporated a couple of things. My parents are originally from the Dominican Republic. I am actually of Dominican descent. I lived there for several years, even went to high school there. And then I was born in New York. So, I tried to add a couple of those little elements in there of my personality and the person that I am into that, which is the reason why, at least when it comes to Dominican, there's the NY and the Knight, um, lifelong Batman fan.
Hey,
So just
gotta
adding that,
respect the Cape Crusader right there, man.
indeed. So that's why, just putting in that little knight there at the end was the cap.
Nice. So, how long have you been cosplaying for? What got you into wanting to cosplay?
Wow. I think actually, I feel like that number, like in Marvel comics, they have the scaling time, or it's actually time is on the scale. Every time I say it's like every time somebody asks me that question, I'm always stuck on, oh, it's been 7 years, and 10 years from now to be like, ah, it's only been like 7 years, when really it's actually probably been closer to like 10 plus years or 10 years or so
Oh,
that
wow.
I've been doing it. Yeah. And what got me into it was I've been in I'm a lifelong geek, specifically comic book geek. And I had attended conventions before. Um, my first convention here in Atlanta was Dragon Con, so I jumped into the deep end
Mm.
of the con scene, and just a couple of years of attending was really just a great time and really a lot of fun. And then I actually saw people that were doing this, and I was just like, wow, that's a really cool hobby to do, is to take actually a comic book character and dress up and actually have and look like that character. And so the first year I did it, I dressed up as Hancock from the Will Smith movie, because I figured, I was just like, you know what? If nothing else, it's regular clothes. If someone doesn't recognize the character, it's perfectly fine. I just look like I'm not putting myself completely out
I
there.
think I've
Or
seen
so,
your Hancock cosplay online before, a few years back.
um, you might have, although actually the person who I believe has had a huge success popularizing it, is Arcane. Um, uh, uh, I'm trying to remember his handle, but he does a amazing job at Will Smith specific cosplays, and his Hancock is chef's kiss. It's just absolutely amazing. He's an inspiration. Um,
Nice.
and so he was one of the ones actually that also, influenced it. So I did that cosplay, and it was a great feeling to have people who were, that saw it. And again, it's not a really, it's a somewhat obscure character, And great just seeing people at the con being like, "Hey, I know who that is," and just screaming out "a hole" to me. It was a really cool experience, and it was a lot of fun. And that first year was I caught the bug, and then after that, I was just like, "Okay, cool, I want to do this again."
So you're in the category, as I call it, cosplay veteran. You've been doing this for 10 plus years, and you said your first con was Dragon Con. And as I put it, when someone says they do a big con for their first con, it's like you decided to skip Disneyland and go straight to Disney World. It's like I wanna go to Disney World.
Yeah, I was just straight into the deep end. It wasn't it wasn't actually necessarily that I did it on purpose. It was just actually it just happened to be here in Atlanta. So it was hey, there's a con here, and I didn't know what to expect, and I went to it, and I fell in love with it from that day forward.
I mean, it's they don't call it a party con for a reason.
That is correct. Yes, and I mean, I will say, even as a party con, it does. There's so much for everyone. I feel like it's the one convention that you can say is really like. I know sometimes people say going to cons is like going to camp, like adult camp. Like you're seeing your friends again after the summer, or after the year during the summer, you're reuniting with them. It's like camp. Dragon Con is essentially that because you're not contained to just one area like a convention center. It's actually split up between 5 hotels, and
Right.
then actually so you have you know almost a 24-hour kind of event that
Oh yeah,
goes
no.
on. Yeah. And so, for I mean, and this is more for those who've never been. I'm sort of explaining it is that actually, if you've never been, I think sometimes people get intimidated. They're like, "Oh my God, it's a party con. It's so overwhelming. There's so many people." Trust me when I tell you, yes, that is true, but it's also true that you can find something. You can spend the entire weekend just going to panels and not even touch any of the party scene, or you can spend the entire weekend in the gaming room and not actually ever see the light of day. And people will do that. And that's
Oh,
what that
I
con is.
wholeheartedly believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
with those big cons, you're stuck doing one thing. It's like, oh wait, the con's already over. Damn it.
Yeah. I have many friends who will spend almost the entire con in the gaming room the entire time. Almost the entire they will not see the light of day. And
Oh
I mean,
man.
and that's the thing, that's what's so great about that convention is that you have for every different flavor type that you have. Like me personally, I love it for the social aspect of it. I rarely get a chance to go to like actually honest to God panels. I love it because I get to see my friends, my family, my geek family again, and I get to see them after a long year and just commiserate and just have a whole lot of fun with them.
Nice. Well, you already answered my question of what it was like going to Dragon Con for the first time. Guess now on to the
Yeah.
next question. Um, how many cons have you gone to since you've been doing this?
Wow, that's I don't think anybody's asked me that one yet, and actually that means I got to sit down and catalog a little bit. I think at this point I'm probably somewhere in the range of about 15 or so cons, maybe actually give or take. Dragon, I try to attend Dragon Con almost every year, but then they also do have other cons here locally. There's a Dragon Con
Oh,
sister convention, which is MomoCon here, Anime Weekend Atlanta. They also do Day of the Dead here, Walker Stalker,
oh, I've heard
and
of
then
Walker
actually
Stalker.
yeah, outside of the state, New York Comic Con, Heroes Con in North Carolina. I just recently, just this past week, attended for the first time LA Comic Con, which was used to be Kamikaze, Stanley's Kamikaze.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
All the way from where you live to that must have been a long trip.
it it was and only for a weekend too, because I really actually just went like I left Thursday, came back on Sunday on a red eye to Monday.
Oh,
And
jeez.
that was a lot of fun. And just there's other conventions actually like and there's a in Magic City Con. I'm trying to remember actually off the top of my head. I know I've actually other Florida cons as well that I've attended. So it's probably somewhere in that range of about 15 or so. It might be more than that. Like I said, I've never sat down and like actually been like put a pin in the map and say this is the cons I've been to.
But I mean, you've also gotten to travel, which brings me to my next question. What's it like traveling for cons, and what kind of advice would you want to give someone who wants to travel out of state for a con?
Huh. Um, well, actually, I learned a couple of tricks this time around going to LA. For me personally, I like my cosplays tend to be very spandex heavy, which is it's easier to pack. Anytime you're talking about armor builds or props, that's when it gets a little bit tricky. So if you're traveling from one state to another and you're not driving there and you're having to fly, I think the most important thing is actually making sure that however you pack what you're bringing with you, you pack it securely, you pack it actually, with, you can actually, they have those little tiles now. That's a good investment to do is buy a tile.
Hmm.
Because I do know I have a friend of mine, Josh Duart, who does these amazing cosplays, and he's actually traveled also out of state and has gotten his costume stolen. Actually, at they his luggage got lost, and this amazing costume he had that he spent almost I think over a year putting together. I want to say it was Lady Tremaine uh, from um, from Cinderella. So anyway, I don't want to deviate to say, invest in the tile. That's always good. Actually, those little tile things where you can track it. Um,
Oh yeah, no,
if you,
that's like that'd be a good thing, to your phone. Hell, hey,
yeah,
this is where my thing's at.
right. Another thing is actually vacuum seal packages. Vacuum seal those big bags that you could just put a
Ooh.
vacuum cleaner to. You can compress your fabrics and put them in. So if you're traveling, the most important thing is actually, to a convention is try to don't stress yourself out with what what you need to bring with you as much as try to bring with you what's going to give you the most amount of fun and the most amount of mobility and flexibility because again when you are traveling to another convention and depending upon where you're staying when you go to that convention if you put on a costume and you're going to be in that costume for upwards of 4, 6, 8 hours, and you don't have like a hotel that you can go ahead and jump into um, and actually change, it's probably a good idea to go with something actually that's not super bulky. Whereas if you're going to a home con, you could always, drive home if you need to put something away or something like that. Um, so my advice in summary is travel light-ish if you can, but also try to, travel smart. Like I said, invest in a vacuum pump,
Ooh.
a vacuum seal bags, invest in tile. So hopefully your stuff doesn't get lost. And if you can, and if you can be a minimalist and you want to just do spandex, like I said, spandex is takes no space
Well, you can usually just
in
put it
your
in your
suitcase.
fold this in your suitcase, and because
That's it.
I've also heard times where cosplayers literally like had to order stuff for their cosplay, but they wouldn't get to their house on time, so they just basically mail
Yes.
it to where they're going. So, and hopefully that it gets there so they can get in their cosplay, finish it, or have a
Yeah.
friend, who lives by just to meet him,
Yeah.
and
It'd be
and
great to have actually sort of like a courier service that went specific, just especially the cons, where you can say, "Hey, listen, if I'm ordering this, send it straight to the con, or if I'm traveling, here's my stuff, send it." Like almost like a FedEx, a segment of FedEx that just handles conventions, taking stuff straight to conventions for you overnight at a reasonable price. That would
oh
be
yeah,
great.
no, I wholeheartedly agree on that.
Yeah.
Another question I always ask pertaining to cons. Advice for people who want to go to a con but don't cosplay, but they're still curious about going. Advice for non-cosplayers going to a convention.
Hmm. For non-cosplayers, I think the experience is to just have fun and just, you know, um, uh, take your enjoyment from what your fandom and what your love is. Because so many times you can find yourself in a situation where you're going to a convention and you might feel a little bit off because you're just like, hey, everybody's like putting in all this effort, and maybe I don't feel like I'm putting in as much effort as they are. Absolutely not. The convention in itself is entertainment. And if you are not at least happy and entertained, whether it's going to the game room or going to the vendor hall or going actually to panels, you know, just go there to have the enjoyment that you want to have actually as a fan. You might get bit by the bug where you're just like, hey man, I really like what these people are doing and how they're dressing up, and I'd like to participate. And if that's the case, go for it, because I can tell you, the vast majority of con goers and cosplayers, or more specifically cosplaying con goers, are accepting. They are very much, hey, they'll embrace you with your costume, whether it's something that you store bought or something that you made. There's always I don't want to neglect the fact that there's always a segment of people that are negative, and that's just life as in general. But you will find that the vast majority of people are supportive and do want you to want to be encouraging, and do want you to go ahead and just have fun and live your best life, and to have that enjoyment. Don't let anybody come in and try to take your enjoyment from you. So for non-cosplayers, I mean, it's always just cool to just, I mean, if you like to spectate, I mean, Lord knows, I mean, everybody's got a little bit of a spectator in them. I mean, if you go to, if you're the kind of person that likes to go, say, for example, there's people who like to go to Walmart and just spectate. I
I
mean,
mean, I mean, I mean,
that's
I'm guilty of doing that.
that's it, and it's a thing. It is 100% a thing. I will tell you, when I was a kid, I loved going to the airport, because I love spectating about seeing people who were, just for a small nugget of time, were coming into this space, and you didn't know where they were going. They could be going 2,000 miles away. They could be going 5 minutes away. But this nexus point was a smattering of people that you would never see cross paths, except for this one little nexus point in here, which is an airport. And that's, that was, as a kid, I was always fascinated with that aspect.
And I'm sure there have been times where you've just gone to conventions, not cosplay, but still want to see the other cosplays.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes. Especially when it comes to the craftsmanship and what people put into it is, I'm always in awe of how creative people are with their cosplays and what they've done and the time that they put into it. Um, it's just really cool, and it's really cool also to have that kinship of having somebody that's like, hey, these guys, are geeky like me, and they have the same kind of, love for this specific character. Or hey, you just happen to catch somebody who is cosplaying a character that you never see. It's a really sort of like a super obscure character, and you're just like, oh my God, you cosplayed them. It's a really cool experience, and I can imagine it's a cool experience for the person cosplaying as well, because
Oh yeah.
I mean, you want to have that acknowledgement of somebody saying, hey, what you did and the stuff that you're doing is really, really cool and just amazing and looks amazing.
Oh yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree on that. Now advice for a first-time cosplayer who wants to go to their first con.
um the first thing is actually take a deep breath, when it comes to what your expectations are, because like I said, I will tell you that don't let anybody tell you different. The vast majority of cosplayers are supportive and are encouraging and will embrace you. There's always a small segment, there's always a small little underbelly, and typically they won't show themselves right out the gate. Sometimes they will, but most times they won't. But do it for the enjoyment. If there's nothing else, actually do it for the enjoyment that it brings to you, and if by proxy and by effect it makes other people happy, great. But ultimately, do it because it makes you happy and brings you joy. That's what you want to take out of it, is that you're actually saying, hey, this is really cool. This is actually something um, that I'm having a lot of fun with, that I actually can, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm embodying this character that I love. That's the main thing, is, and it does, and your skill level has nothing to do with it. You could be wearing actually, regular clothes. And there's so many characters that wear regular clothes, and you have you put together a specific jacket with some pants and boots and whatever, you can look exactly like a specific character that's just wearing regular clothes. Or you could have an elaborate armor build and all the other stuff. Ultimately, there's in the space, in the cosplay space, there's room for everyone, any one of those skill levels. So don't feel intimidated. Don't feel like you have to compete with anybody else. If you want to compete with yourself, that's fine. That's, if you want to set goals for yourself and keep improving, that's fine. But don't mirror yourself to somebody else and say, hey, this person's doing this, so I've got to try to be better than that other person, because then at that point, you're not going to get any enjoyment out of it.
No, yeah, no, I mean, I know people have that mindset when they go to cons and they want to cosplay and they see like these cosplayers and these big bulky cosplays or these elaborate cosplays and they think, "Oh, that's what cosplay is? Well, I don't want to do that."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and everybody has a different speed to it. Like me particularly, I don't like armor builds either. Like for myself, I love looking at them and I love the craftsmanship and the people that put in the time for it. Me personally, I'm built more for comfort than I am for that. So I don't, when it comes to that, I think the most armored, and I would, I and this is in no way qualified as armored, but the most armored I would get is something like Batman, because Batman, there's so many layers.
Oh,
You have a cowl, you have a cape, you have the belt, you have the gauntlets, you have there's a lot of layers of stuff. And when I put that on, I honestly, it is like I look at that and I look at myself in the mirror, and there's a moment of I look awesome, and then there's a second moment that's like, my gosh, I can't imagine what this would be like if I was wearing full on,
oh,
like actual armor,
oh,
like
like what he wears
EVA
in Arkham,
foam.
like what he wears in Arkham Knight.
Yes, like something like that, like
Oh,
having EVA foam pieces,
oh,
like
jeez.
like that's a level that I'm like, I love it and it looks great aesthetically.
But it's like I don't know if I want
But
to do that just yet.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know that that's where I want to go. And again, that's everybody has their own speed, and that's why I'm just like, hey, if somebody else wants to do it, cool.
Oh
Me,
no,
it's not for me.
no, completely understandable.
Yeah.
Um, Next question is, so with the 2024 year, with the 2023 year coming to an end and the
Mhm.
2024 year beginning, what cons do you have planned for end of the year, beginning of next year?
So this year, actually, this weekend coming up, actually, is DreamHack, which is, I think they also hit up a couple of other states. There's different ones. But DreamHack is here this weekend. It's more of a gaming con. I'll be there this weekend. And then for the rest, that's probably it for 2023. For 2024, Dragon Con, obviously. MomoCon is another one I tend to, frequent as well. Um, but outside of that, I mean, I am very much, and this is budget permitting, you know, looking to explore other cons that I've never been to and to states that I've never been to. There's Rose City Comic Con is one of those cons that I've wanted to go to, but it's so close to Dragon Con that financially doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's one I've wanted to go to for a while. C2E2 is another one I wanted to go to. And it's just one of those things where I'm going to try to see if I can, at the very least, put it in the cards to say, okay, maybe I'll hit that one this year, and then the following year I'll hit that other one and stuff like that. That's on New York is another one actually that I've been
Ooh.
to a couple of years, back to back. That's another one I'd like to go to in 2024 again. Um, but like I said, mainly I'd like to see other conventions in the US, and actually even outside of the US, even actually in Canada or in England. I'd like to go actually just to see those conventions, see the those cosplayers that are out there, and actually the ones that frequent those cons, because there are so many people I follow all over the country that I would love to meet and just say, man, your stuff is amazing. It's bonkers. Like I just love to be able to just at the very least like see them face to face, shake their hand, and say, your stuff looks absolutely amazing. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Oh no, I mean going outside of cons. Sorry, I was looking up DreamHack and whatnot because you're like, oh, T-Pain's Nappy Boy Gaming is gonna. Oh
Yes.
wow.
Yes, yes, actually, yeah.
Man, this con looks, and I love gaming. This con looks fun. I may have to set this on my list for the future.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I know that, like I said, they have other ones in I don't know where, what other cities they go to, but I do know actually it's not just
Oh yeah,
relegated.
no,
Like yeah.
they're a touring con. Yeah, I'm looking it
Yes, it's
up.
touring con. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're I just saw the ones that were wrapped up. They're going to India, Sweden, Spain,
Yeah.
Germany. Like it's a travel con, and those are,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't heard of any travel cons, but this sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
they can make
No.
it over here or Oregon one of these days. I'd definitely love to check
Yeah,
it out.
actually, that would be great, actually. And actually, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's so exactly like Rose City. Rose City is one actually that mentioning before. I want to go over there because there's so many cosplayers that are based actually in the area and close to that we haven't commingled because we haven't crossed paths in cons that I've attended, but
Hmm.
I'd love to be able to go to that. Just also so I can to go to that con to just sort of get the atmosphere and
For
the
some, for
sights and
some,
sounds of it.
for someone who's actually been to the Oregon Convention Center early this year for one of their anime convention, KomoriCon,
Yeah,
it's definitely the convention center is pretty cool. I'm gonna have to say from
yeah,
experience.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I'd be excited to actually
I haven't
get a
been to
chance
Rose
to
City.
go over there.
I haven't been to Rose City yet. That's on my list, but I've heard like the best things about Rose City.
Yes, exactly. The same thing. I've heard actually amazing things about it. And it just, like I said, it'd be great an opportunity just to go to it. And again, just like when I went to LA this past week, not this weekend, but the weekend before, it was a new experience. It was really cool. It was really actually just, being able to not only experience that con, but also, like I said, meet people that I follow that are on the West Coast and be able to, just, meet them face to face and collaborate. It's so freaking cool.
Yeah, well, I wholeheartedly agree on that. So now we're gonna get into the topic of cosplay stuff. Um, what kind of advice would you want to give to someone who wants to get into cosplay or is a cosplayer on a budget? They don't have a whole lot of money. What advice would you want to give them?
Oh, it's funny that you say that because I don't know whether or not this is a phrase that I've created. I think I've created it. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I consider myself to be a scrapper cosplayer because I tend to take whatever scraps of certain things and try to utilize them for other things and retro fit them into something else. So I don't build a lot of my cosplays in the sense of like, the actual costumes and stuff. A lot of stuff I do get either commissioned or store bought. But then after I get them, I do actually start tweaking and making tweaks to them, depending upon what kind of flares and whatever kind of stuff I want to add to it, to sort of make it my own, put my little sort of spin on it and stuff like that. Um, Same thing actually with props. Sometimes building it's I have build props. I built, for example, I did Green Lantern, and I still do actually do Green Lantern, but I built myself a battery, the actual Green Lantern battery. Um,
Oh,
and it was a very
you built his charging lantern?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, and it was the first time I had actually in earnest, like start to finish, built something. And I to this day I don't know what demon possessed me that I actually did it because I honestly, if you ask me how I did it, I will tell you it's a blank slate. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Um, but going back to your question, it is, you know, people I don't want to mislead anyone to say to them that cosplay can't is not or will not be a costly endeavor. It can be 100% because depending upon how much you want to invest in it, you will actually spend money. And sometimes it's on props, sometimes it's on costumes, sometimes it's on materials and stuff like that. Um, but don't let that be what is the primary thing for you to be happy with it or for you to think that you'll be successful with it because ultimately if the moment you stop having fun is the moment that I feel like it's no longer worth it because it's, again, just like any hobby, there's going to be passions and there's going to be like moments of triumph and moments of sorrow and stuff like that. But you don't want it to be where it's one more than the other. And you don't want it to be so unbalanced that you're spending so much time and you're frustrated and you're spent and you're basically putting yourself into bankruptcy because you're buying things actually and stuff like that. You want to be conscientious of how much money you're spending, and that means putting a budget together and stuff like that. Like, there's a couple of apps out there that you can get that will let you say, hey, these are my projects, this is my budget, this is how much I want to spend. Um, but again, that depends on your style. If you're somebody that is into closet cosplay, then and you just work with what you got, cool, great. That's actually something that, as long as you are having fun, as long as you are enjoying yourself, don't let anybody take that enjoyment from you. Don't let anybody make you feel any less of a cosplayer because you're not doing a specific character the way that they want you to do the character, what's in their head canon. Just be mindful, like I said, and just try to be as responsible as you can be, when it comes to budgeting, and try to be, and just don't lose your happiness for it. Because if you lose your happiness for it, then at that point, I think you should say, okay, maybe this is not giving me the reward that it used to. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people will step back after a while. A lot of people say, you know what, this isn't as fulfilling as it used to be. I need to go ahead and step back. And maybe actually it takes them a year or two, and then they say, you know what, I miss it. I want to get back to it. Um, but that would be my advice: is don't ever lose the fun, and don't equate money to fun, or don't equate to having spending a lot of money means you'll have more fun or enjoy
No,
it.
I mean, again, cosplay is not a cheap hobby. I think
It is not.
anyone who's been on here or anyone watching who has cosplayed or does still cosplay can agree. And I also agree that, don't let it get into your head that, and and like you said, there's something wrong with taking a break from cosplay. There are cosplayers who no longer cosplay, but love commissioning cosplays for other people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but also, I mean, also take advantage of the fact that I don't know any cosplayer that has never sang the praises of Goodwill. Goodwill is a
Oh,
awesome
thrifting,
place to
yes,
go.
yes, yes, it
Yes,
is.
absolutely. Goodwill is a great place to go, especially if you're looking for props. I don't know how many times. I mean, I feel like every time I go to Goodwill, they always have. They always, or almost always, I would say 95% of the time, I can find Nerf guns. And it's just sort of like it's one of those things where it's just like parents buy them, and then they go ahead and actually the kid outgrows it and they send it to Goodwill.
Like,
I've
ooh.
never not it's very few the amount of times I've gone into Goodwill and not seen at least 5 to 10 Nerf guns. And that's an easy prop that people can take, repaint, and make into for whatever character, gun wielding character. That's
Or
an
I mean, hell,
easy
you can
prop
even
to
turn it
do.
into the Batman's grapple gun.
You can, exactly. Though, and again, and that's not even talking about, toys that are from, movies and stuff like that, or specific uh, uh, props and stuff like that. Like, I think actually, for example, Batman v Superman, when the movie came out, there was that grapple gun that actually it was pretty life size. It's potentially, you can find that actually Goodwill. It's rare because I think actually there are a lot of people. I have found that a lot of prop makers have wised up, and what they do is that there's a couple of stores I think on Etsy where they'll take Nerf guns, they will repaint them and sort of like configure them to be like, hey, this is now almost like a new prop, with a new paint job. It looks nothing like a Nerf gun anymore. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, that's another great resource is Goodwill.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, you again, you also answered where we were right along here.
Yeah.
Oh man. So for you, what's been like making stuff for your own cosplays and everything, whether it's a cosplay piece or a prop or just, something in general?
I mean, it's funny because I feel like it really, I have to be in the right mindset to do it. I like, for example, this weekend or this week, I started working on a jean jacket for my daughter because at DreamHack I want to take her with me, and I'm going to be dressed up as Doctor Strange, and I was going to have her dressed up as America Chavez, and I'd gotten a jean jacket. Somebody gave me a jean jacket that fits her, and I decided to go ahead. I just had the impetus to be like, okay, I'm going to paint this. I'm going to go ahead and actually paint all the stars and the logos and all this other stuff.
Ooh.
Um, and it's one of those rare moments where I'm just sort of like, I have that bug of inspiration to go and do it. And then there's other times where I'm just like, I have a prop and I'm looking at it, or I have a thing that I've got to go ahead and put work to it and sand it or whatever. And I'm just like, I just don't have it. I just don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me. So it really is, um, it's almost like a weird kind of writer's block. Like most of the time it's a writer's block. And then there's some times where I'm just like, and it usually happens. It's weird and funny because it usually happens like late at night. I will get this like surge of energy to be like, okay, I'm going to start working on this. And then I start tinkering and building and doing stuff. Um, and so it's, from a creative process and from a creative sort of like, hey, what do you like? How do I get into it? I gotta be honest, I don't know. It's just there are times where I'm just like, here it is, go. And I will go ahead and work on stuff. And then there's times where it's sort of like, eh, I I don't have
Oh
I
no,
don't have the energy.
I get what you're saying. And by the way,
Yeah, I'm like, exactly.
I did like your Doctor Strange cosplay that you did as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I was that one is that's a bot cosplay. It was actually one, but I did with it was the actual gauntlets were a solid blue over the solid blue tunic. And
Oh,
so he has
this one right here.
yes. So those things around the actual around the gauntlets,
Hmm.
that's actually something that I took some, I can't remember the name of the material, but basically it's like a shiny royal blue material, and I sewed it onto those gauntlets because it didn't have any, like there was no accents to it. And I was just like, you know what? I need to go ahead and actually tweak this enough to go ahead and actually and do that. And then boots, those boots are actually boot covers and an old pair of Skechers I had that I basically melded into a boot, that are near impossible to get on. But once they're on, they look like a whole boot. Like it is actually like, so it's funny that it's actually Scarlet Witch boots that I'm wearing because it was actually that's where those covers came from. So that's what I mean. Like that's when it comes to like making tweaks, that's the
Hmm.
kind of stuff is like I'll take like there's the costume itself, and then I'll say, okay, well, what kind of flair and things can I add to it to sort of like give it my own little spin, and stuff like that. Also, I attached magnets into the interior so that way I can attach the cloak, which is what typically most people do is that they put magnets on the other side of the pins. Um, but oh, and the belt. The belt actually was a little bit more narrow. I got another black belt like that, like a cinch sort of like belts, and mounted them together and stuff like that. So again, little tweaks here and there to add that to make the that particular costume my version of the costume.
Nice. So I gotta ask about your Batman cosplay real quick.
Yes.
The one where you're wearing the cowl with the white eye covers. Was it
Yes.
easy to see through that?
It's not too bad, except if you have direct light coming towards you, it becomes hard. If you are in a well lit area, it's fine. If you have direct light hitting you, like say for example, if you are um like when I've worn it for a parade. If I'm walking towards where the sun is, it's it's blinding. You can't see anything, but if the sun is behind me and everything is well lit, I can see it. And those meshes that are there, those meshes are the linen bags that they sell to put your linens in when you for laundry.
Hmm.
That's what that is. I basically took one of those, I cut the shapes out and put them on them so that way it actually gave it has the whiteout effect so you can't see my eyes, and it's sheer enough and mesh enough where I can see out.
Nice. So now on to talking about your cosplays. What's that one cosplay you've not done in so long that you would like to bring back?
Ooh, um, let me see. So one that I haven't done in a long time that I'd like to bring back. Um, I think that might be Green Lantern, just because I feel like I have not done Green Lantern in a very long time. And that was one of my first in earnest cosplay, which by the way, that Green Lantern and my Valzog Superman from my first one, because I've had a couple of versions
You're
since,
you're
but
who? You're
Valzog Superman
Val
from Earth 2.
Val.
Um,
Is that the one with like the white, red and
yes,
blue
what
outfit?
yes.
Valzok,
Uh,
Superman, and which Green Lantern? John Stewart, Guy
John
Gardner.
Stewart,
Nice.
John Stewart.
Still
Those
waiting to
two,
see him in a movie, by the way.
yes, I know. As are we all. Um,
Valzok, Superman. Okay, I've never
yeah,
heard of that version before.
yeah. So it's from Earth. So when they did the New 52, they redid Earth 2, which used to be where the Flash
Oh, okay, I've seen
uh
this outfit before now. That one?
yes.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually that's version 2.0. Then there's a version 3.0. But
Oh,
version 1,
this is it 3.0?
no, that's still
Oh,
actually one, that's still 2.0.
oh.
Um there's one with me in a Captain America shield, and that's 2.0. I mean, that's right, that's 3.0.
So
But
I'm 1.0, 2 point, 2 point. Ah, sorry, I'm writing down the cosplays we talk about so I can send them to you
no,
afterwards so you can send it to me.
yeah,
Okay.
no, absolutely. So there's the one actually that is version 1.0, and both Green Lantern, they were both actually commissioned by an amazing artist, tailor. His name is Walter Dean.
Shout out to
He
Walter
has,
Dean.
yeah, Dean's List. He's here in Atlanta, and he was actually the one who I came to, and I was like, listen, I want to do these two characters, and he was just like, let's do it, and we collaborated on it. And when I say collaborated, I mean like I gave money and said, this is what I want my vision to be, and he actually took the thread and actually put it together, and he did such an amazing job. It is by far still, um, that Green Lantern is by far one of my favorite costumes ever. Just,
Nice.
the lines, the very striking lines. It's very flattering on me, because the way that the vector looks makes my shoulders look big by optical illusion. And it's just a really cool um, uh, costume and a really cool cosplay.
Nice.
But anyway, but yeah, that was actually one that I think I want to bring back. I want to actually redo eventually. I want to do a different version of it. Let's see. Hopefully, when James Gunn does another Green Lantern and we
We'll
got John
see.
Stewart,
I mean,
maybe that's when
I know we
I'll.
kind of had like a little brief John Stewart in
Yeah.
the
Uh,
Snyderverse films,
yes,
but
yes,
like to see an actual like, because I mean, we saw Hal Jordan live action with Ryan Reynolds.
yes.
No disrespect against Ryan Reynolds, it just wasn't that good. It was
No,
okay, but wasn't.
it wasn't
It's
that good.
just so
That's we
much
could say it. I
CGI.
think
But
I think it's really.
I would love to see John Stewart. And the only tease we ever got of John Stewart Green Lantern was at the end of Arrow when John Diggle got the ring.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
again, that never went anywhere either.
That never went anywhere. So we,
Like, come
we're
on,
still
We need John Stewart live action.
we're still primed for it. We're still primed. We're still ready. Hope we'll see. We'll see. Actually, maybe that'll be, because I do know that they are developing a Green Lantern, either the show with the core, or actually a Green Lantern standalone show, I believe, or something like that. So we'll see.
We'll
We'll keep our
see.
fingers crossed. Yeah.
But yeah, no, shout out to Dean's List for doing your Green Lantern and your Valzog Superman 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0.
Well, he did the 1.0. The
Oh,
2.0 and the 3.0 were me, but the
oh,
1.0
nice.
was him. Yes.
Nice. Nice.
Um, and he actually like he did such a it's just so freaking cool. I love that.
Nice. Now on to, as I call it, your least favorite cosplay, whether it's a cosplay you really didn't like wearing, someone asked, you didn't really want to do it, but someone asked you, or it's just like, it was cool to wear, but you've never worn it since.
Ooh, that's a really easy question to answer. Um, it was Frozone from The Incredibles. So I got that costume. So just a little bit of backstory. Um, Soon after a couple of years after I started cosplaying, I actually joined a volunteer group here locally in Atlanta called the Cosplay Volunteers of Atlanta.
Nice.
And we would do, it's the mission of the actual group is to support and service charities that service children and families. And that includes actually children's hospitals, like hospital visits
Much respect.
and events for organizations raising money for childhood disease and stuff like that. So when in my joining the group, I kept wanting to add more costumes that were kid friendly and stuff like that because again, that's the whole mission is to be able to bring that experience to those kids that maybe can't go to Disney World and stuff like that and see these characters. Um, so one of those was actually I invested in a Frozone. I was just like, I'm gonna get Frozone. It was right before The Incredibles 2. And so I was just like, okay, cool, we'll get Frozone. That actually I think will be kids will recognize it because they recognize it from The Incredibles and stuff like that. Um, and the colors are not flattering, or at least not on me. The colors are not flattering on me, so it wasn't really a flattering costume. I did make a couple of tweaks to it because it was just a bodysuit, but it didn't have the goggles, and I actually built the
Oh,
goggles
you built
for
the
it. So
the
that
visor for it?
yeah,
Nice.
I built a visor out of actually EVA foam and like a visor I got from Amazon and stuff like that, and did a mount for it, and then put magnets to stick it up here.
Oh, okay. You got one of those like it just it's the cheap ones, but you altered it
Yeah.
to look
Yeah.
better quality.
Yes, yes, exactly. It was just the ones that are just the visor. It's just the glass, the
Hmm.
actual plastic, and then I actually mounted the
Oh,
piece to
nice.
make it look like it was. But anyway, all that to be said, actually, Frozone is one that A was not a very flattering costume on me, and B, it really got old very quickly. Having people scream at me where you found your super suit.
Oh God. Yeah, there are those you
And I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's not bashing anybody. I get it, but I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like you must realize that you're not the only one saying this. So it's not an original joke. It's not something that you're just gonna go ahead and walk up to me and be like, "Oh, hey, you found your super suit." Like I haven't heard it 20 other times from 10 other people behind you. So I feel like it was one of those things where it was just like, and it was just more grating for me. It wasn't world ending. It was just one of those things where it's just like, here's the joke. Come on, hurry up,
yeah,
kind of
well,
thing. Actually, it's
as a cosplayer, when you cosplay someone's favorite character, you're gonna have either adults or little kids like say the things like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, sure,
Which
yeah, sure, I'll
which
say this thing that I've said 200 freaking times already.
well, what's funny about that is, see, if that was the approach, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. They were like, hey, say the catchphrase, cool, that's fine. It was the fact that it was just like, again, when you're asked to do something and you're asked, say for example, they're like, hey, you're Superman, say truth, justice, in the American way. Okay, cool. Then you're the person who is presenting the character and you're presenting that. Whereas when someone else is delivering a line to you, they're trying to be the one, they're trying to be the ones who are humorous or trying to make the joke.
Hmm.
So that's why for me it was just sort of like, okay, we get it. Yes, it's a joke. We get it. It's a great line in the movie. and you're just going to keep hammering it. You're just going to every so often you walk around. I even actually had a friend of mine who made it her mission to at one convention to make sure that she would find people and she would bring them over to me and tell them to ask me where my super suit was. It just to troll me. I mean, I love her to death, but she did that to troll me. So there's that. But yeah, Frozone, and I have since sold that costume, and I have no regrets. I have not looked back. That costume is gone.
So it's basically like you had it, and it's like, yeah, we're done. We're done,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I I did some charity work with it, which is good. It got its use because I did some charity work with it. I was able to go to some events in costume and obviously brighten the lives of some children and some children,
Excuse me. Ugh,
bless you,
thank
some
you.
children, which might I add, none of them ever asked me about, bless
Sorry.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. None of these children ever asked me about my super suit. They were just happy to see me. I got that out of it, and then I was able to sell it and pass it on to someone else who maybe somebody else is putting it to good use.
Well, as long as they're putting it to good use, I think that's really what
That
all that really matters.
that's the crucial
Oh,
thing.
oh well, that clears us. It's, um, uh, so now next question. Um, what's been your all-time favorite cosplay? Like, it's a cos like no matter what, how many cons you go to or events or whatever, you like to cosplay them.
Um, I think by far and away it's got to be Luke Cage. Specifically the Luke Cage. Well, actually both versions, both the comic book version and the one based on the Netflix series. A, it is it's very recognizable to comic book fans, which hits a very like near and dear part to me because that's something we can connect on. But then the other thing is actually it's comfortable cosplay, and you can't beat that. You cannot beat comfortable
No.
cosplay. I'm literally walking around in some cases when it's the comic book version, t-shirts, a t-shirt, jeans, and like some street boots, some gauntlets, and that's about it. Or if I'm actually in the Netflix version, all of those things except actually with a hoodie with a yellow lining. It is super comfortable. It is great to just be able to walk around and just have access to my hands, pockets. I have pockets.
Oh,
I
if you
mean,
can,
these things,
oh,
yeah, these things that you take for granted that are there, and you're just like, man, it's so cool that I have pockets, and it's so cool that I can actually take my phone and actually use it because my fingers are available. It's you can't beat that. You absolutely can't beat that. Outside of that, he is uh, probably the character that I most relate to when it comes to cosplay. Like actually, like he's a street level hero. He is, community minded. Like actually, like wants to do better for his community. He's not, you know, he's a very grounded hero. He's very, very grounded, which is something that to me is just really I can relate to in that type of facet of who he is. So I've I've liked the character for years. I really, really actually like started to love him after he appeared in the new Avengers they added him to the team. Um, and I can't remember now the writer. I'm drawing a blank at the writer who was writing New Avengers or Avengers at the time. But when he re-added him into the comic books, which I think is what springboarded him to be, and with get enough popularity to be added to the Netflix show, it was cool. And I was just like, I from there it was like it went from I like this character to like, man, I freaking love this character.
and I didn't know for the longest time that Luke Cage back then went by the name of Power Man. I didn't know that until I watched the
Yeah,
Spider-Man the animated series.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how I
exactly.
was introduced to Luke Cage was when he was called Power Man and that
Yeah,
Spider-Man the animated series. That was a few
yeah,
years back.
yeah. Exactly. And so it's a character that's actually been, obviously since the time of like black exploitation movies and stuff. And
Hmm.
so having him, be reinvented a little bit and actually brought into the modern age, and still kept as a very grounded character, but around other, characters that are larger than life, like Captain America and Thor and stuff like that, was really, really cool to see that dynamic. So I just, like I said, I just loved his reintroduction into the universe.
No, no, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, yeah.
So now the next question I have is, um, see here. Oh yeah, future cosplays that you plan on doing, uh, later down the road, and what is your dream cosplay? Like, as a cosplay
Oh,
that you would love to do, but you don't have the time, the money, the patience, or skill for it yet.
right. So the first part of the question is future ones that I'm working on. I'd like to work on actually a version of Wolverine, especially if it's right if I can do it
The movie comes out,
before the movie comes out. I would love to do
and you've
a
done
version of
Wolverine
Wolverine.
too.
I have actually. I want to do this. Well, I did a mashup of Wolverine and Luke Cage. That was actually what in my sort of like wanting to incorporate new things and new aspects to my cosplay. That was one of the things actually I sort of brainstormed on, and I was just, and it was right after Marvel had done this short little event, which didn't go over great, but it was called Infinity Warps. And what they did is that they would take two characters and they would mix them together, similar to what they did back in the 90s with DC and Marvel, except that these were all Marvel characters. So they mixed Spider-Man and Spider-Man and Moon Knight, they Captain America and Doctor Strange, Iron Man and Thor. Like they matched them into one character. And so with the idea of that, I was just like, well, I mean, you have a character like Luke Cage, he got his powers from being experimented on while he was in jail. And then you have somebody like Wolverine, who was also a character that's experimented on while being captured and whatever, and they had adamantium. So imagine if you took someone who has unbreakable skin and introduced unbreakable bones into him. What would that look like? What kind of character would that? What if you took what they did to Logan and did that to Wolverine? Like if they basically went ahead and actually gave him the adamantium skeleton and then did the process that made his skin unbreakable. What would that look like? And what kind of beast of a freaking character would
I
that
remember
be? And so
when they
that's
I remember when they tried to do that with Miles Morales as Thor.
yes, yes. And they did that. They did a series where it was Miles, what if Miles Morales was Thor? What if Miles Morales was Wolverine? What if Miles Morales was there was another character? I want to say Captain America, maybe.
Probably.
They did those couple of characters, which unfortunately also weren't great
Oh no.
in execution at all. But somewhere in that sort of vein it was right before that I thought of this, and I was like, it'd be cool to see what would it look like if Wolverine, I'm sorry, if if Luke Cage had also an adamantium skeleton and claws, and he's also actually, he's got increased strength, and also on top of that, unbreakable skin.
Nice.
So yeah, that was my little mashup. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna put this peanut butter and this chocolate, and I'm gonna put them together.
But you said your future cosplay is Wolverine now. Is this Wolverine? Is this one you want to do? Is this based off the upcoming Wolverine for the Deadpool movie?
Probably some kind of version of that, yeah, or comic book, either one. That's one that I want to work on. Another one that I want to do, hopefully is, and that's this sort of goes into a little bit into my if I had the time and money, mostly money, in this case, is I'd love to do Kratos from God of War.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
I would love to do that. I would also love to do Goliath from Gargoyles. Those two right there. If you told me I have an unlimited budget and you can any of these costumes you want, those would be in the top
Fu
two, probably switching places every so often, depending upon my mood. Like Some days Goliath will be first, some days Kratos will be first.
So Kratos and Goliath are your dream cosplays?
Those are
Oh,
up there. Those are up there.
oh, now Kratos, now TC Carson Kratos or Christopher Judge Kratos?
Good question. Good question. I would say this is Christopher Judge, the dad
Boy.
with the boy with the boy, because that's there's nothing more, especially because I'm a father. Granted, I'm a father of a little girl. I don't know how it's gonna go over to constantly scream girl. It's a body, but it doesn't have the same ring as boy.
No, I
But I feel
mean,
like that's actually.
and Christopher Judge's Kratos is very intimidating, I'm not gonna lie.
Yes, he is. And it's just like that deep register and that very, gravelly deep register too, which I guess I'd have to start getting my practice on with that. But that would be one that I would
Oh,
do that, and
that'd
actually just getting myself in shape so that way I could go bare chest.
be. I mean, you want your dream cosplays or voiced by talented voice actors for,
Yeah,
Christopher Judge,
actually,
Kratos, and Keith David as Goliath. I mean,
yes,
we
no,
got
and
that
deep yet
chef's kiss
iconic
voice.
voices. Oh my God, yeah, that's actually I am Goliath has been on my list for a while. I really would love to be able to do
Nice.
that character justice, like do a honest to God, really cool, like articulated wings kind of like stuff would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen any Goliaths. I've definitely seen a lot of Demonas.
I've seen so there I've seen Goliath. The one that stands out to me is one of my one of the cosplayers that I just he is top tier god level, a god level cosplayer in my book is a Night Mage. Night Mage, that dude, I don't know what cosplay he has not done. And every time I think he's done all of them, he will premiere another
Oh,
one, and I'm
yeah,
just
I'm
like,
okay. I know Night Mage now. I've seen his Piccolo. I've seen his Kratos.
yes,
Yeah, he's
that
on my list. He's on
that
my list of people I want to have on here because I want to talk about some of his. I definitely want to talk about his Raven
that dude
cosplay.
that dude is god tier cosplay. Like I am just like that. I am in awe of that man. That dude is freaking
The dude's like
phenomenal.
the dude's built and like his cosplays are iconic. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay,
And he
now I seen this. Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, he does. He does. Like I said, that's the level you would like to aspire for. I'm not saying again, I'm going back to my point early on. I'm not competing and I'm not saying, oh, I have to be better than whatever. I just look at somebody like that and I say, that's freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mountaintop.
Oh
That's
yeah.
I gotta give him hats off and all the props.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So
Yeah.
now on to my three favorite questions. Ever had any cosplay mishaps? Something ripped, tore, fall off, shattered, broke? It just anything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Ooh, yes. Let me see. In my entire time actually as a cosplayer, yes, I have. And for the most part, thankfully, they haven't been so bad that it's just like everything is ruined, like burn it all down kind of stuff. I would say the most recent actually was at LA. It was the first test run I had had in earnest with the magnets on my Doctor Strange cloak. And so I have to do a couple of tweaks to it because what's happening is that it's a very strong magnet. I have three magnets sandwiched one on top of the other. And what's happening is that even with that, if I move my shoulders and flex in any way, it tends to go ahead and actually want to come off on one side. If I'm just standing still, they're not going anywhere. Those things will stay right there. Um, so if you want to consider that a mishap, sort of ish, because then it was sort of like constantly coming off. Like I was a photographer friend of mine, Pat Leoka, wanted to get a picture and he was just like, hey, can you jump up and like sort of like flap your cape out and see if I can get one that makes it look like you're floating. And every time I would try that, it would just go, the cloak would just fly off. And
It
that's
just
happened.
have it out of its own.
Yeah, yeah, and that happened to me actually at a photo shoot with Moon Knight too. I had a picture, and the shot itself looks really amazing. It's on my Instagram. It's of me and Moon Knight, and there's a gold background, but it's basically me jumping up, and you really can't see where my face is. It's just like you see the cape and where it's going, and you see me in the middle, but you can't make out heads or tails of it. But that one jump, the button snapped off. And so mid picture, the cape is coming off of me. The shot still turned out amazing, but the button went.
Like, where'd it go?
Yep. I didn't know until after I landed, and I was just like, "Oh, where's my cape?" But yeah, but if you look at the shot, it is. My friend Dana did that shot, and it is just such a cool shot, just really really cool. The way it looks, and it looks like actually like and it was like a shot where I'm like sort of like jumping like this or whatever. Um, just and it almost looks like I'm caught in a blast from the back.
Nice.
But I'm sure there's other mishaps that I've had, and I
Oh,
can't remember.
I'm sure there is. There's always one.
Yeah.
Now, next question is again, is out of the three favorites I like asking. Um, have you ever had like any WTF moments at conventions? Just like awkward, freaky, weird. Like, did that just actually happen to like, okay, yeah, I should go the other way. So I call them
Huh.
WTF moments. Or
WTF moments. I'm trying to think of actually anything, whether negative or positive, that's happened. There's been a WTF moment in cosplay. Um,
or at conventions, like you just saw something
or at
just
a
or
convention.
just there's just like the most bizarre, weirdest, scariest thing you've ever seen. Just like, okay.
Yes. Well, it's probably not. It's so while since this is we're talking about cosplay in this podcast, I do have to go ahead and actually put this one caveat to my advice earlier when it comes to what brings you joy in cosplay. Don't let the intersection of what brings you joy cross the intersection of what makes other people uncomfortable or makes other people upset or can actually make somebody have a reaction to it. Case in point, one year at Dragon Con, and this was a few years ago now, a couple came dressed, and the fact that they did this still is absolutely mind-boggling to me because because again, remember, this is not one person. This is two people who decided that this was a good idea. They came dressed as a Twin Towers, and not only the Twin Towers, but came dressed up as a Twin Towers post plane crash.
What?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely in the worst possible taste. I don't know how those folks didn't get run out of town. And they were walking around, and I just happened to catch them at a quick glance, and I was just sort of like, talk about a WTF moment. I was just like, what is going on here? Like, who does this? Who would go ahead and actually take this specific thing? And again, this was probably 7 to 9 years after 9/11 but the fact that these people decided it was a good idea to go ahead and dress up as the Twin Towers prior to collapse, post to getting hit by a plane, like flames, actually like they had like flames and little people like actually that had jumped off. All of that stuff was there. It is mind-boggling to me that they actually that they came dressed that way. It made
That's
no sense whatsoever.
pretty ballsy.
Yeah,
N
that's one way of putting it.
no,
That's
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's just it.
yeah.
Okay
I,
then.
I don't think, like I said, I've never seen anything that insensitive. I've never seen anything that callous or that just tasteless, like that you can go ahead and just be like, oh yeah, this is a joke. I'm gonna dress up
That's
like the Twin Towers.
not a joke. That's really insensitive.
Yeah. And that was it. That was exactly what they did. And I'm just like, geez, that's wow. So WTF moments, that's WTF moment. Absolutely. 100%.
Jeez. It's a bit dark. Um,
Yeah.
next question. What's been your favorite convention moment? Like something that happened at a convention, like to this day, you'll always remember it because it was like the coolest thing ever.
Hmm. Um, let's see. Coolest thing ever at a convention that I've been to. I think the coolest thing, there's probably like a top five thing. Like I can't say, and the number itself, the number of which one is number one, sort of flip flops a little bit. Because I've had occasions in which I have run into celebrities candidly, like actually like out in the wild kind of stuff, which had been really, really cool. One celebrity specifically was one of the actresses from the show Supernatural, whose name escapes me right now. Um, but I ran into her at the elevator and I was just like, hey, can I get a picture? And she was super, super cool about it. She was just like, hey, listen, it's not a thing that they let us do, because of the convention and stuff like that. And I was like, completely understand. But then after that, she came over, she gave me a hug. She's like, oh my gosh. I mean, she's just like, just really, really cool about it. And it wasn't like she was, um, she could have been very much like, hey, no, no pictures and just like stormed off. It was more like, I can't because of these things, but if you want to talk and chill, we can do that. And I was just like, that's fucking awesome. The fact that you're just like, hey, we can kick it here and talk and whatever, and like whatever, but I can't do this one thing. Awesome. Also, I've actually had the good fortune of being a panelist and actually also propose my own panels at conventions, which has been really, really cool as well. I've actually had now upwards of like, I think 10 panels now at this point that I have either been a part of or hosted or like invited to, or I've actually created like a Hispanic Latino cosplay panel that I've started
Nice.
recently. Um, and that's just really cool to be able to get that, go to these conventions and actually have people attend and go and want to hear what me and these other panelists want to say and sort of like what we want to bring to the table. It's a really, really cool experience, especially from for me, because it's extremely important and I am a fervent advocate of diversity and
Oh
acceptance
no,
and
I wholeheartedly agree. Having a panel,
yeah,
of POC cosplayers,
yes, yes, and
it's a really good thing. Like that is I think, diversity in cosplay is, a really important thing, and I think
yeah,
teaching that to people, whether it's young or old, is a good thing.
yeah, and that's exactly it. And actually, and having that be part of the normal conversation is part of it. So that's also been a really cool experience for me. It's also been a really cool experience to also be invited to a convention to be a guest. Actually, I was a guest at a convention last year.
Oh,
That was,
nice.
yeah, that was an incredible experience. It really, really cool. Um, and then the last one I have actually, I think is, last year at Dragon Con, I volunteered to be a moderator for some of their panels and I just had the absolute best time. It was such a great experience, such a cool experience to be able to, moderate panels for fan run panels, as well as actually like celebrity panels, stuff like that. Just really, really an amazing experience. And I can't wait till next year because I want to go ahead and do it again because I had such an awesome experience from it.
For someone who's actually who is a moderator on here for podcast panels, I could say it's a great thing.
It is, yeah. It's fun, and it's fun being able to hear and experience other people's stories and stuff. That's also the coolest part of it too.
No, yeah, no. So last question. Oh, two more questions. What kind of impact has cosplay had on you personally?
Oh, hmm. Um, for me, it's been sort of really filling because it is, you know, uh, uh, ever since I was a kid, my dream was initially to be a comic book artist. That was my my dream to create these characters. To have the opportunity as someone who's been a fan for as long as I have, to be able to embody them it's just it's a great feeling and a great actually it still lets me tap into that wide-eyed wonder of being a kid, even being 47, I can still tap into that and actually experience it and get joy out of it. And so that's something that I feel like is invaluable, because I think actually it's very easy to just continuously just grow up and take yourself too seriously and not find and become cynical and not find joy in things. So that's where it's had an impact for me. It's being able to keep at the very least some connection to my childhood.
Now, one last thing. What kind of advice in general would you want to give out there to those who are listening and are watching this?
Hmm. Um, Always be yourself, and not in the cliche, hey, be yourself, people will accept you, because the reality is not everyone will accept you, and not it's not actually that's human nature. That's not a necessarily a bad thing. It's the whole adage of, I may not be your cup of tea, but I may be somebody else's shot of whiskey, or whatever the case is. you know be yourself, but be your genuine self for you, um and try to live as someone who is, you're not trying to do harm to others by being your genuine you. Like, if you're not trying to do something that you're trying to make someone feel uncomfortable, just try to be truthful to yourself and be, someone who understands that you're sharing a planet with, 10 billion other people on this planet.
If
You've
not
got to
more.
basically, if not more, you have to know that there's certain things where you need to make sure that your comfort level or your sense of whatever isn't encroaching on someone else's, and overlapping. But yeah, that's the main thing, is just be kind, be a good person, and don't be somebody that actually that people look back at and say, I didn't want to be around this person because this person was not a good person, or I don't want to be this person because I'm around this person because this person was constantly negative and just never saw anything good in life, never saw any enjoyment. Like, don't be any of those two extremes.
That's some really sound advice. Actually, real quick, sorry, I thought of one more question because it was a question I asked a voice actor a while back.
Yeah.
What do you think if you could tell your younger self, hey, this is what we're going to be doing when we get older? What do you think your younger self would say?
Wow. Um, I think my younger self would be impressed and proud. I think he would actually be just over the moon. That's the person I am, trying to, when I say that I'm, trying to get in touch or keep in touch with that younger self, is that is appealing to that person that was this wide-eyed kid who loved comic books, and just, that was what brought him joy. And to be able to see that and see the adult me and what I'm doing, that would be something I think actually he would think was a really cool, really amazing thing.
Oh no, I imagine. I mean, the fact that your younger self would see, hey, that I'm going to be dressing up as my favorite superheroes, not only just for conventions, but to make other people happy. I think
Yeah,
that's really cool, and the
yeah,
fact that you can live your dreams as an
yeah,
adult is like even the better thing, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Agreed.
So last but not least, if you'd like to drop your links below, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with your cosplays or see you at the next convention?
Oh, all right. So, anybody can find me at DomiNYcan Knight. That's actually on any platform. It's actually Dominican with a Y instead of an I after the N. So it's both. It's NY and then Knight NY. So it's actually going to be. You can find me on, well, not on Twitter. I used to be on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter anymore. but Instagram and actually not on TikTok either, to be honest. So Twitter and TikTok, no. But anywhere else, you should be able to find me under Dominican Knight. Um, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. It'll be YouTube. Would be Dominican Knight.
Ooh, I'll be sure have to. I'll
That's
be
where
sure
you
have
can
to be
find
sure
me.
to subscribe to you on YouTube.
Yes, absolutely. And likewise. And also, like I said, I'll be at DreamHack this weekend. That's actually
Ooh. Well,
December.
that
What
December
are we today?
15th through the
Yes.
17th. So
Yes.
on day 2, this is when this video drops.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so that I'll be there. So if you happen to be there, and you see me, come say hi, man. I will warn you, I am a hugger. So if you like hugs, I like hugs too.
Well, Mo, thank you for coming on. I'll again shout out to Cosplay Flower for recommending you. Can't thank her
Thank you to
enough
Cosplay Flower. Thank you so much.
for the name drop. As always, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Until next time, thank you for listening, and as always, thank you for watching.